Hey everybody, it's your old pal Steve Moore here, owner of RUNMOORE, this fabulous brick and mortar running shop located in Westminster, Maryland. Today we'll be talking about the new Altra Flow 2 coming out in late spring of 2025. Before we get too far into our shoe review, do me a solid if you haven't already and like and subscribe to our channel. And hey, if you stick around to the end, we'll have a promo code where you can save 10% on this new shoe. So the Altra Flow 2 is a mid-cushion neutral shoe from Altra. And if you've been an Altra fan for a while, the original version of this shoe, which came out a year and a half ago, was the Altra Forward Experience. And that broke the internet because it was the very first Altra shoe with a 4mm drop. So if you've been a ride or die fan of Altra for a long time, or if you're somebody who's just been searching for a nice rounded foot-shaped toe box, for the longest time all Altra shoes were just a zero drop, nice and flat, heel and toe, same platform, rounded foot-shaped toe box. And then they kind of went wild and said, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and raise it up a little bit. And that was a very polarizing thing for a lot of people. It was one of those shoes that people kind of like, you know, fist at clouds type thing. And not just because it had a really dumb name, but it's just such a weird thing for Altra to do. And I will say from a retail perspective, we were all for it because it just gave us another option to pull the shoe for people. There are a lot of people who are like hoka fans who like sort of a not all the way down, but not all the way up type drop. And so we were able to pull the original Forward Experience against a lot more shoes and thus getting it on more people's feet. And then they came right around 6 months later and came out with the newly branded Flow. So this with the Flow came out and it was very similar to the Forward Experience. It still had a compressed EVA midsole, similar fit to it, similar characteristics. I just think it was more of a rebranding than anything else because again, the first name was so dumb. So they kind of needed to have a bigger update. And honestly, just to pull the curtains back a little bit, we're doing a couple reviews today because I'm a professional and I can knock a bunch out at one day. And we were talking about another shoe that came out that had a really big update. And really because there's been so many new updated high cushion shoes out there with more premium updated midsoles, shoes that were more in that EVA, everyday feel, minor updates were just getting left behind. So like if you're coming out with a shoe that's high demand, busy category, lots of competition, like you better put a good product out there. And I think the updates that they made on this shoe, really like across the board, like I'm kind of giving a bunch of thumbs up to. So as always, what comes up with Altra is how does it fit? They used to have like to me, a pretty easy way of understanding it because there isn't really a D, a 2E. They had their own sort of fit system, which I also kind of appreciated. It's like we're our own brand and we're doing things our own way. So they used to have like the original fit, which was their widest, and then they had a standard, they had a slim fit. And so you kind of at least could figure out where along the lines the fit was and the width that you might need. They sort of scrapped that and now they're just sort of what they are. So one thing I noticed right away was this definitely is a pinch wider. These aren't the same size, but the Flow 1 versus the Flow 2, it just flows a little bit wider, just a little bit. Again, if you're an old school person, I would call this somewhere between an original fit and a standard fit. I think one of the reasons why it also fits a little bit wider is this upper is just better. It breathes a little bit better. It feels like it has a little more play to it. I always found this just felt a little tighter. It didn't quite breathe as well as I wanted to, especially like a hot color like this. Definitely felt like it didn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel as good as I would like the upper two, even though I thought the shoe felt nice. It just a little bit flowier, a little bit wider. Same 4mm drop. I think for the time being, I don't see them adding anything else with anything higher. So I think for the time being, they're gonna have a couple models in that 4mm drop or zero. That's gonna be where their wheelhouse is, and this is still a 4mm drop. One of the things that they did change on this that was big for a lot of people was they got rid of the Achilles cushions here. So if you're somebody who tried one of the old, whether it was a Via, whether it was a Wild, whether it was a Flow, they have these little pieces on the inside here that I personally like, but I will say that people that didn't like the Flow, especially people that weren't accustomed to Altra, it was always fun to pull a Flow or one of the 4mm drop shoes for somebody who had no preconceived notion of the brand. So there wasn't that, hey, wait a second, this isn't an Altra, it has a drop. Just as a nice trainer shoe, there was, I would say, I don't know, 17.5% of the people that popped it on did not like that. It irked them. They'd stand up immediately and say, I don't like the way this feels on here. But for those who did like it, like myself, it was just a nice way to hug your foot in, but they did away with it. So now it just feels a little bit more loosey around the heel. Not like I'm stepping out of it. You just don't have that hugged in tight feeling to it. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I would say overall, most people aren't gonna really notice it. I think it overall is just gonna make it for a better experience. But really, truly, the biggest update they made on the shoe is a brand new midsole. Again, the first version and 2 versions of this had just a compressed EVA midsole. It was a little bit denser. It wasn't super soft. It had a more, I mean, like for me, it actually felt a little bit faster because it was a little bit thicker. It felt a little bit more like I didn't sink into it as much. This is definitely a much more soft plush feel. This is their new P35 midsole, which is a blend of their Ego midsole. So it's a little bit softer, has a little bit more bounce to it, but I didn't feel as much bounce as I just did soft. It felt plush. Actually, I was kind of walking around with 2 different shoes on and kind of doing my usual side-by-side guy, and I could hear myself in this shoe, and this one I couldn't. It had just like a nice, breezy, easy feel to it. But if I'm gonna be honest with you, hey, I'm always honest with you folks, if I was going out to the track and running something fast, I probably would still run this just because I like a firmer shoe. That's a preference thing. I don't like feeling too soft in it. But for everyday cruising around town, I'm gonna pick this one over the old Flow. It feels just more robust around my foot. I feel like I have much more play around to it, and it does feel smoother underfoot. It has a really nice little glide to it, not snappy fast, but just a nice efficient glide. Like if I was just looking for a nice everyday trainer, I'm very happy with the Flow 2. I'll also say one nice thing, and I was talking about another brand who had to do a price increase. This is still a $140 shoe. So by making this fit a little bit better, took out like a very polarizing piece, updated the midsole, and just gave it an overall nice vibe. Like I really do, I think this is a great looking shoe. Some of their colors they have are also very nice. I think the Flow 2 is gonna do very well for Altra this season. I think it's gonna give us a lot of reason to pull it, especially again, I think we're gonna see a lot of prices going up throughout this year. Like tariff talk is real, and I think we're gonna see things going up, but Altra's for the time being is holding true that this is gonna stay at 140. So if you're looking for a good value shoe that you can do a bunch of stuff in, I think the Flow 2 is gonna be a great option for a lot of people out there. Hey, and if you wanted to pick up a new Flow 2, we'll have a link for it down below, and if you enter promo code RUNMOORE, you'll save 10% on this bad boy, and we'll ship it out for free. And if you're in the greater Westminster, Maryland area, stop on by and say hello. There's a good chance you'll catch me while I'm here. Thanks so much, happy running, and we'll see you around town. Thanks so much for watching. Click the videos on the screen to learn more about some related content.